early special teams buzz.
Oh, yes.
And, for Nebraska, you had some of it in tunnel talk, but
so did you.
Archie Wilson, the punter, has been on campus, gone through workouts, and the reports are very strong thus far on Archie and kind of what he's looked like. So that's exciting. I mean, the immediate things I've heard is like, wow, he kicks it equally as good with both his left and his right foot.
Game changer, perhaps. I hate to say that, but I mean, yes, they have had practices, June, we talk about June all the time. And there is a lot, like the players like him. They understand how important he is, and they're seeing progress already. Now, the question, it kind of begs the question that this has been on my mind lately. I don't think we talk about. Maybe we don't think about it as much, but as much as we should, is how much could special teams get? How much better could it get? Would you say? I mean, how much better?
Well, they were putting like 12, 13 punts inside the 20. And
who's they?
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Last several.
I thought you meant Tennessee.
Can they get it up into the 20s?
Right.
Like it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're averaging, let's just say 2 to 3 punts per game inside the 20,
sounds like a lot
versus maybe 1.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
Think how much that changes a game for your defense.
Right. Changes the game for everybody. And that I just know, and I don't know. It's not like I talk to Mike Eckler that much, but you could tell, you could just see at camp. He's a supremely confident individual, right? That alone, I mean, it gives me optimism. But it's more than that. I think that he had to kind of blow up the kicker room a little bit. I mean, he brought in Kyle Cunanan
and the snap. Well, the
snapper.
Ed Foley brought in Gaelic,
right?
But
they have a new snap. They have a new snapper. They had to blow up that operation, and I just think everything's going to look better. And then the other thing that we don't talk about enough is what they've done as a program is added a lot of athleticism to the roster. And where's that show up? A lot of it shows up on special teams. He's going to have a lot of very athletic players at his disposal, guys that you don't think about all the time, like a Vince Genatone. We're even hearing, and I wrote it in Tunnel Talk, we're starting to hear a name that when he came in, I was immediately taken by. Then he was hurt in the spring, Jameer Khan. Hurt in the spring, right? Didn't hear anything about him.
He didn't practice all spring.
Right. And I think he could be a demon on special teams. Keep an eye on that. But there's a long list of guys that come to mind on this team that are very athletic. Jeremiah Charles, right? What could he be on special teams? There's a lot. There's a lot of guys.
Yeah, like Genatone, people forget he was a 10-500 guy.
I thought of Genatone because we saw him the other day walking through the weight room. God, you got to get an athlete like that out there. I mean, that's a serious athlete, Vince Genatone. I mean, big, strong,
multi-state champ wrestler.
Yeah,
10-500 guy.
I mean, just looking at him shouts D1. I mean, so yeah, I think that Eckler, I think would tell you at Tennessee, that head coach wasn't big on a lot of the key guys playing special teams. So he used a lot of young guys, walk-ons. At Nebraska, he'll use some walk-ons. But there'll be a lot of scholarship.
They have to get their holder figured out. And a name to watch is Jalen Gramstad there.
Is that right?
Yeah, Camden Cook would be the other one. But don't you want a holder that you can do stuff with?
Yes, I do. And Gramstad immediately strikes me as a very viable option because the perception is he's very steady. Very steady.
Like he's one of those guys that he's good at like ping pong. He's good at everything.
There's that too.
He's just good at stuff he does. Like he's the best golfer on the team. He's the best.
Well, right. And then you talking about him being able to do stuff at the camp. We were talking to a guy who played against him. I think the guy was from Morningside, right?
Yeah.
And he said that when Gramstad had the ball in his hand as a quarterback, he was on offense and he was on the sideline. But he said, I felt fear just watching from the sideline because you're like, now what's he going to do? Essentially the two-time Heisman winner of that division. And so, yeah, he can do stuff. Gramstad can do stuff.
And he said the Morningside coaching staff, when he picked Nebraska, they threw a party.
When Gramstad chose to leave and came to Nebraska, the Morningside staff threw a party. They were happy.
Because it got them back to be a national championship type team again. Because Northwestern is still one of the best ones, but they had the edge over their program.
Gramstad gave them that.
But yeah, that will be. And I think when you do a travel roster of 74 players, I don't know if you can take Camden Cook on that.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
I think you would want to have your specialist spots.
By the way, people are going to wonder, well, what about Camden Cook as a backup punter? I think it'd be Cunanan as a backup.
So yeah,
punter.
so on a road trip, you would travel Cunanan, John Hall, Archie Wilson, your snapper, probably 2 snappers.
That's it.
And that you have 5 right there. And then you have your backup quarterback serving as the holder, which makes sense.
Yeah, Cunanan is not a rollout punter. He's not. He's a pocket punter, but you can go to him.
American punters generally aren't trained in that way.
Right. So Nebraska could switch to a pocket scheme like that.
What's funny though is the Coles kicking camp, they now have introduced the rugby rollout stuff as part of their curriculum.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, you do. It's in the best interest of the players.
But special teams exciting. I do think Nebraska will take a long snapper in this recruiting class, and they had both of the candidates they want on campus this
Kid
week.
from Papillion South, Dolphins.
So Sam Dolphins, who's been offered by Auburn, one of the best in the country, but then Travis Wakefield from Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, another guy that they brought in. So they have 2, and I think Eckler's got a connection to Wakefield from his time at Tennessee. And that's who he would have probably recruited in Knoxville. So between those 2, I think you're going to see one of them get an offer to be the long snapper.
I'll tell you what, Sean, just wrapping up the conversation. If you're a Nebraska fan and, it's June 13th right now and you're just sitting around, you want to be optimistic. Think about a picture with an offense that is markedly better than last year, coupled with a special teams that is markedly better and maybe a top 40, top 30 unit nationally, across the board. Okay. That would help alleviate, like what you're talking about is pinning offenses deep. You're maybe you feel a little shaky about the defense. Not everybody does. McElroy, the college football analyst, thinks Nebraska will have a top 10 defense. The former Alabama quarterback, you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about that. But if you feel a little shaky about the defense, well, what if the offense is markedly better, which we think it could be, and special teams is markedly better?
I like, though, is they're not going to see really an elite offense earlier in the year.
No, not any offense either that really you look at and say, oh, my God, they're just going to line up and run it.
Like Michigan 2023.
Yeah, Michigan's talking about not being as power run oriented this year. It won't be like Blake Corum. Remember when we went to Michigan and covered the game in Corum? It would just be like, okay, Corum, they did pretty well on that play. Oh, no, he got 6. Oh, yeah, they did pretty good on that. Nope, got 7. You just couldn't do anything.
Harbaugh just rammed it up Nebraska up the middle the whole game.
Right. So I don't think they have that this year, Sean. I don't think they have that.